Good morning, everybody. Afternoon. Welcome to Tech School. We've got a great session today with a local San Diego startup. So we're super excited to hear about their experience of starting a business. It will contribute well to those who are learning or wanting to do so. So we're glad to have them here. And thank them for coming. So we wanted to make a quick announcement to pay attention to some upcoming Innovation Hub. We'll be announcing our Fall Innovation Challenge. So if you're a student or want to participate in our Innovation Challenge, you'll be seeing some more information about that. It's an open challenge, so you can take the idea that you're working on as a startup and submit it to the competition and hopefully win some money. So hopefully that comes out. You'll see that coming out very soon. I'll let Stephen do some introductions and remind everybody about how to continue supporting Tech School.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, welcome, guys. Thanks for coming on another episode of Tech School. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Every sort of interaction we get with videos like this, whether it be a like or comment or what have you, allows this video to reach more people, right? So that like that you give, that comment that you give, sharing your thoughts, things like that, might just allow a video like this to reach an entrepreneur or startup who really needed to hear part of the message that GoSurf was talking about today. So if you have a chance to do that, that's an easy way to give back to the startup community. But other than that, we have an exciting speaker today, as Sam mentioned. We have GoSurf, a local startup. I'll let them kind of share their story in a minute, but good to have you guys.
Thanks, Stephen. How you doing?
Good. You guys have your polos on and everything. You're ready to go.
We got a little painting too. You can't really see it.
Put it up
okay.
Trying to make this
Awesome.
as good as possible. Me and Dom just moved into a space in University City so we could work closer together. So we're kind of moving everything in.
Yeah, we're now based out of La Jolla. Our first headquarters is in La Jolla.
Yeah, we're turning the garage into office space as we speak.
That's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
For everyone else watching, just as a quick tidbit of information here, if you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Whether that's if you're watching on YouTube or here with us on Zoom, and later on in the episode, we'll try to get to as many as we can. And if you're tuned in on Zoom here, we can have you just ask your question. But if you have one, just let us know in the chat. All right, guys. So I guess we'll start off. I'll let you guys say what's the story on GoSurf? How'd you guys get started, and how did each of you guys become part of the team here?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit more about how I came up with the original idea. I was giving surf lessons in Carlsbad, California. I was teaching for a surf camp based out of Ponto, and what I found was that their payment system was just not really even working. I mean, they were underpaying me, and I was making most of my money in private lessons anyway. So me trying to make more money, I was like, well, why don't I contract these lessons just me, considering that I have my CPR licensing and I'm able to do that. And I can advertise, on Facebook, Craigslist, or put out flyers. And, while that did work to a certain extent, I think there's a much more efficient way to do this. And I was, working on a few other independent contracting apps, and I was like, well, why isn't there an independent contracting app for surf instructors? And that was the very first thought that snowballed into what we are now, which is basically just connecting users with any resource in the surf industry. And our MVP gives you ability to book all independent contractors in the surf community, starting with instructors, photographers, videographers, coaches, and some surf camps. And that's how we kind of came up with that. I can talk a bit more about, how it became a lot more legitimate. So I had that original thought probably about 2-3 years ago. And I ran it past Cameron when we were on a trip out in LA with a common friend. Me and Cameron had surfed together a couple of times, and I knew he knew a lot about the industry. So I wanted to kind of run this first idea I had past him, and he was just very excited about it. I don't know if you want to talk bit more about how we met and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. So basically Alex came to me with this idea a few years back. We actually had met a few years before that in an entrepreneurship competition in high school. And we both did well in the competition, so I knew that he had a good head on his shoulders and had a good mind for entrepreneurship. And so when he came to me with this idea, I just clicked with it really well. And I have a somewhat extensive surfing background. Like I just graduated from UCSB and I was on the surf team there. So he came to me with this idea and I loved it instantly. And I said, all right, how can I help? And from then I've taken a role as the chief marketing officer. And that's what I'm doing for GoSurf now. I love it. Of course, it's a startup, so I'm doing a lot of other things as well. But that's sort of how I got involved.
Yeah, Cameron was really the first person we got involved. As I said, I trusted his insight into the industry, and he even helped me a lot along the way when I was originally building the wireframing and took some guidance in Portugal. I was traveling in Italy doing some fashion photography and studying business, and I went to go on a surf trip in Portugal. And I just happened to meet this guy who was working in an incubator before I even knew what an incubator was. And we were on this drive from the north of Portugal to the south to go to, I was going to a different surf spot, and I was using this app that's kind of like a ride sharing app, but there is no official driver. It's just some random person who's like, hey, I'm going here, want to split gas. And we did that, picked up this man named Shivam Dewan. He runs a startup called Get Boarded, and I'll get a bit more into that. But basically, he asked me, what do I want to do with my life? That's the first question he asked me. And I was like, that's really heavy. Wow, you must be an interesting person. So, kind of answered. I said, I have this idea for a surf app that's going to benefit surf instructors as well as maybe potentially other resources. But I don't know how to code. I'm great at Photoshop. I know the logistics behind how I want this app to look. But again, I don't have a coder. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a full-time student. I don't know if I can take on all this coding by myself. So what do I do? And he said, if you come do a marketing internship for me, I'll give you a place to live with one of my associates, and you can learn directly under me in the incubator office in Aveiro, Portugal. While you work for me, we'll put part of your time aside into figuring out how do you optimize wireframes? How are you going to carry out your business model? What do you even know what a pitch is? Like, I didn't know what a pitch was. I did, but I didn't. And he made me get a lot better at it before it came time to submit this to ASU and get involved with their program, where we eventually won the competition for the sports section and then won some grant funding. And that kind of got us rolling and got us connected with Dom ultimately. And he can talk a bit more about that if you want.
Yeah, so around the time they were doing all of that, I was working on a project by myself. It was very similar in the sense that it was a freelance contracting application that didn't connect the surf community, but just connected the creative director, I guess, where you'd have like photographers, videographers, choreographers. It was called Giga, but what I found was that working alone on an application isn't the best way to actually scale. You probably won't be able to scale as fast as you could with a team. So when I was working on it, I kind of got bored with having to do certain things that were out of my niche, and things like marketing, Photoshop, all the things that now we do individually. Like Alex works on a lot of the Photoshop. He does a lot of the marketing. We have some guys working on our finances, and other people working on different sectors that I didn't think I could do on my own. So I didn't really know any of them actually when I joined GoSurf. I actually met them through a mutual friend. I was in a fraternity my sophomore year and pitched my idea. It was called Giga. I pitched it to one of my fraternity brothers, and he thought it was a really cool idea and told our current CMO, he's not here right now, his name's Nate, about it, and they found similarities. So when Nate told him that they were looking for a coder, he reached out to me and let me know that there was a position that I could potentially take on if I was interested. And next thing I knew, I was having a meeting with Alex on Zoom. We worked together for the first month without ever even meeting in person. And when we did meet in person, it was really cool. I connected with the guys. I understood the vision. I enjoyed learning about the culture. And now that I'm a little bit more connected with the culture, I have a new passion for what we're doing here.
Yeah, and this was, keep in mind, probably like right when quarantine started, so in March, right? So I heard from a friend of our COO, Nate, that someone was kind of interested and had a similar business model. I was like, okay, I'd love to talk to them. Let's see, how are they handling this freelance market? What are they doing? And, he connected with me on LinkedIn. He kind of saw some of our success and asked some questions, and we worked with a previous CTO who wasn't really dedicated at heart, so it just worked out perfectly. Dom's a great guy. Now we found a place to live together and work together. I mean, this is just working out perfectly so far. So
Yeah.
that's what
Only thing I would add, Dom, is you're at Cal State San Marcos student.
Yeah, so that is another thing. So of everyone on the board of directors, I am the only one who attends Cal State San Marcos, and really the youngest one. Cameron actually just graduated from UC Santa Barbara. Alex is on his last couple of classes at ASU. We have our CFO goes to
Tulane,
and that's located in
Louisiana,
Louisiana,
New Orleans.
New Orleans. And then our CMO Nate, he also goes to COO. He just graduated from UCSB.
That's good.
Andrew.
And Dom forgot to add, he might be arguably the most talented member of the team as well.
That's awesome, guys. You guys definitely have a really unique story. I know you guys have had conversations with Curling Eye about it, and it's awesome that we get to share that story with everyone here. Somebody mentioned Go Cougars. Oh, it's Sam.
Yeah, we're excited about it, but go Devils. But
I would say Go Gauchos, but Cougars are awesome too.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did want to talk to you guys about. So in some of our previous conversations, you mentioned how focused your team has been on things like market research, right? Mm-hmm. So as you guys, with your experience as an early stage startup, what does your process look like for conducting the market research? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so basically we're just trying to break down answers that would be, obviously, you break it down between quantitative and qualitative answers, right? But to take it back a step even further, when we won that initial grant funding, it put us into this more like elite league of mentors for ASU, which has honestly brought us so much clarity and guidance. And we've paired up with an individual named Brian Reynolds, who was an early Microsoft employee, worked kind of closely with Bill Gates and just observed him and kind of learned from him and took what worked with him and has made it his own system in a way. And that system is to do market research, right? So he said Bill Gates always spent about 50% of his time talking to customers, seeing what the new problems are, new concerns. And Brian breaks this down into 3 categories that he wants us looking for. This is gains, pains, and jobs to be done. And we do this through qualitative and quantitative research. The quantitative is more for our financial forecast, how much we're going to make off of each potential vendor, when resources are needed in season, stuff like that. And this idea first got introduced to us through Cameron originally, but we started taking it more seriously with Brian because he has just so much guidance and brought us so much like assurance and what's ahead of us. And he just seems to steer very clear. But Cameron also had just a lot of experience at UCSB. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so essentially my last year at UC Santa Barbara, I was involved in a new venture competition similar to the Venture Devils competition at Arizona State. And that's where I first was introduced to the concept of market validation, right? To make sure that we're solving legitimate problems in the industry. Because I feel like oftentimes especially as a young entrepreneur, we have these bright ideas and we sort of develop solutions for problems that aren't necessarily real. So essentially what I've learned through studying market validation and market research is that the first problem to solve is understanding the problem itself and understanding its validity. So our market research process is essentially all interviews and talking to the individuals that would use our product. So every day, all 3 of us are interviewing active surfers. We're interviewing active surf instructors, surf videographers, and surf photographers. And this has just been so beneficial for GoSurf as a whole, because not only does it put us in contact with people who would use our service and our product, but it connects us with them, and it shows us that there's a real legitimate problem we're solving with the app.
Yeah, and something kind of to generalize that our mentor Brian Reynolds is really stressed, right? Is it's like, with this business idea, you have a baby, right? And it's not fully developed yet. And what he uses as an expression is like, okay, you can show someone your baby and ask them if it's cute, but if it's ugly, they're still gonna say it's cute, right? So we have to find out, okay, without showing our baby, like, is this ugly ultimately? And that's what we're doing every day with these questions, like, how long have you been surfing? What's, the single biggest issue with booking some of these people, and without them knowing we're GoSurf, right? So we say we're doing research for the surf industry in San Diego. So they have no idea why we're doing this until we get all the way at the end, and then do a second one to clarify questions. And then we can onboard them if they seem like a viable beta tester for our MVP. And that's how we've done a lot of onboarding as well.
Right. So we ask questions sorry about that. We ask questions sort of like, what problems are you experiencing with surfing right now? This could be anything from lack of improvement, lack of an easy path to improvement, lack of instruction, maybe not getting enough jobs as a surf instructor. A common one we hear is the difficulty in marketing yourself as a surf videographer or photographer. And these just really play to our idea. And we don't ask leading questions either. We just start out, very open-ended. What are your issues in the industry today? What would you like to be solved? How's your experience teaching lessons and stuff like that? And it really leads us to helpful information.
That's awesome. So Dominiq, I know earlier you mentioned your old venture Giga. How does what you're doing now with GoSurf, in terms of what we just talked about, compared to your experience with Giga?
So with Giga, like I said, I was working alone. So everything that I would come up with would be honestly my closest guess to what I thought would work. And with the market research, I find it very easy to come up with features that are not only going to work because they have a reason that they're being added and integrated, but it gives me more validation when creating a feature to know that this is actually going to benefit someone because they brought up the issue and they made it known that if you add this feature, it'll be solved. Someone just asked a large question.
Yeah, we can answer a couple of these questions if that's okay with you, Steven.
Sure. Yeah, we can ask one of them. I know Sam had one that kind of branches off of this. Sam, did you want to ask that?
You can also just answer directly.
Yeah, I just wanted, one of the things I often hear from startups is, hey, we did a survey. And I always recommend you should do interviews, right? Because there's some value to it. I wanted to get your guys' opinion about the value of doing interviews with customers versus surveys.
So we value doing interviews because our mentor has, well, one, he stressed that we should do it, but what we found is that when we treat it more like an informational conversation, it doesn't feel like we're kind of taking up their time. We kind of sway them into giving us more insight, right? And we ask these questions to help them visualize their experience so they can think of more issues that are present, right? So one big question that's a great example of that would be, tell me about the last time you provided a surf lesson, take me through the entire process. And then after that, once they've described all of it, you say, okay, well, was there any frustrations? And I feel like if that was on a typed out or written survey, I wouldn't want to write all that. It's a lot easier to just, say that to me and then have one of us writing it out, right? Because we can read their face and their kind of body language, which is what our mentors recommended us to do, while the other person is behind me typing the entire thing. And so we don't really skip a beat with that, I believe, at least.
That's awesome. That's some great insight there.
The interviews really give a sort of a face to these customers or individuals who we'd like to, connect with. And as a survey has its benefits of, reaching more people generally, I would say the interviews have many benefits as far as like details, and it sort of takes the burden away from the individual being interviewed, right? Because if you have to fill out a survey, we all know like you're likely to share less information and sort of get it done with. Whereas an interview, it's really easy to share details just verbally.
That's a great point. That's some great insight. Joanna, I know you posed a number of questions here in the chat. Did you want to ask any of these?
Oh, you're on mute.
I think you're muted.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm curious, what's something surprising that you've learned through your customer discovery?
I mean, the main thing that sticks out to me was when COVID was much more prevalent, that it didn't actually hurt participation in the surf industry. It increased it exponentially. So sales on surfboards, like beginner surfboards, like Wave Storms, are through the roof. Camps are booked so much that they don't even have enough room or instructors anymore to take all of it on, because some of them have chosen to close just because of, whatever reason they provided, but they are allowed to be open, and it's provided a lot more participation and even a bigger market for us. One thing is, what's another thing? You guys can think of any?
To be honest, nothing really comes to mind as a surprise to begin with, which is kind of nice because, the whole point of these interviews is to validate our market and our product. And almost every single interview does that for us without us pushing the individual in that direction, which really feels good and sort of is reassuring for the idea, because people say things like, I can't schedule my own lessons or my own photo shoots, or I have difficulty marketing myself as a photographer, or, or I don't have a platform for what I do. And it just feels great to hear that without saying, oh, would you like a platform to expose yourself as a surf photographer? Of course, that's like back to the baby thing. Of course I do. Yeah, that's a great idea. But instead we take the other route and say, what issues do you have? And they have the issues that we're solving.
So I'm curious, did you kind of know who your customer was right at the beginning, like who would actually pay for the service, or did it take some time to sort of figure out like who was actually going to pay for the service?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit more about that. So like I said, my first thought was, well, independent contracting platform for surf instructors, for tourists, which is a valid industry. But as market research has gone on and we've kind of snowballed into other independent contractors, we've come to realize that surf instructors is a very seasonal need. But when it is, it's huge, right? So the months of April through about August, early September, that's when instructors are so busy. There's family, friends coming in, tourists, random people hitting them up on Facebook, Instagram, through the camp, word of mouth, anything. And that's when they're the busiest, right? But what about the other months when tourists are not here? And that's where our photographers, videographers come into play, because this is when the active riders, not the active riders, are looking to get clips, to get sponsored or advance, or, just watch themselves to get better, or just put out content for themselves. That's one big thing we've noticed. And when talking to older people who have, been the editor of Surfer Magazine for one, we got lucky with that interview. Great guy, lots of insight. His main comment was, I don't think this would work for the way it used to be with magazines, but now with social media, all these writers are just constantly being like, I need to post clips. I need to post clips. I need to show my progress, right? So even he thought that was very valid, even though he thinks his part of the industry is dying. He thinks this could be kind of a rebirth potentially. So we were very excited to hear that. What was your next question here? How do we, sorry?
You read my questions?
Yeah, I have enough over here. So.
Cool. I was just wondering, like, it sounds like you're not having any trouble finding people to interview. I know sometimes people are they don't know where to start with trying to find like who their customer might be.
Yeah, so we've adapted to COVID by doing Zoom or phone call only. We prefer Zoom because, like I said, our mentor was like, analyze their face and body when they're answering this. Do they look like they're doubting? Do they look confident? Like what's going through their head while the other person's typing it? So like I said, we can't show them our baby, right? So through our personal Instagrams or Facebooks, we'll DM people from surf-related groups or surf-related pages that are based in areas that we want to target. So San Diego and Santa Barbara are our two main cities we're targeting right now. I want to say like 70% San Diego, 30% Santa Barbara. So we're mainly going to well-renowned surfers in San Diego and going through their follower list and, you know, sending a cold message, but, you know, semi-appealing it to that person's page. Like, oh, we saw you did this. We'd like to talk to you about that because we think you're a good candidate to discuss trends in the surf industry at the moment. You have 15 minutes. And then that's how we get started.
That's great. Those are really good sort of hints about where to try to find people to talk to.
Yeah.
And then I guess I was curious. I know that you're building your product, or you have an MVP. Like, so what do you have a process for integrating your customer discovery feedback? Like, you're learning now and building at the same time, and that can be, you know, a conflict because you've invested, you know, time and effort in building a product.
Yeah, so basically the way it works is after we look at the market research, we come up with things like, for example, I can give you one example on how we solved the issue of meetups. We found it very difficult to get service at the beach, and not everywhere along the coast is suitable for meeting up with an instructor. So because of that, we know that it would be easiest if we just had them meet up at a general location. So we're planning on integrating GoSurf locations at each beach along the coast, where the surf community will become accustomed to these GoSurf stations and know that this is where GoSurf has their sessions. This is where they run free lessons. This is where they do most of their business, so that it removes from the hassle of having to figure out where to meet up.
That's great.
And
that's my list.
I'd like to add that this is another benefit of doing interviews over surveys, right? Because let's say, like, suppose I asked you, hey, could you fill out the survey? It'll take 15 minutes. I don't know about you, but for me, I'd say, yeah, I'll get to it. Versus, hey, is there any way I could interview you for a quick interview about the surf industry? Like, I know you're a talented surfer yourself, just looking to learn a few things. And these individuals, you know, they feel special, and we give them individualized attention, and we say, so tell me about your last surf session. Were there any pain points, you know, like any issues you have with the industry? And it's really easy. It's a really good dialogue that we get out of most individuals this way, versus the survey route might be, you know, I like surfing, enter.
Oh, right. So we're like, what's your name? You know, where are you from? How long have you been surfing? We're not like, what's the issue? You know, we want it to be smooth, and we believe it is, right? And we've had to adjust a lot, you know, so we've had to call people back and be like, hey man, like we had a couple more questions regarding this. Like, is that okay? But now we've kind of finalized one main template for each person, which is instructor, photographer, videographer, coach, surf parent. What else is there? We do
active rider,
surf shop manager, and beginner. So we do all those now, and it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
And so we already sort of knew who to interview, like, to answer your question, because basically those who we connect with are those who we interview. So anyone really involved in the surf industry, I mean, we're hungry for interviews still. So you can never have too much information on your market. So anyone who's looking to surf will interview, like wants to learn, rides, you know, anyone who wants to learn to who's a pro, like we'll interview you. We love that information. Anyone who, like he said, runs a surf shop, teaches lessons, rents boards, all of it, you know. So that's who we interview.
We're even able to retain some of these beginners. We talk about onboarding some of these vendors right after talking to them. What about these beginners, right? We want to do something with them. So once we've gotten all of our research done and, you know, we're ready to show them our baby, we're like, okay, join our Facebook group for beginner surfers. We can either connect you with more beginners who are looking to learn. You can even surf with us, or we can connect you with an instructor at whatever your budget is, whenever you're available. So we're kind of running our MVP before our actual app has come out. And more recently, we've had a lot more messages on our Instagram being like, hey, you guys have inspired me to get back into surfing. Like, who do I connect with? Like, where's your app? You know, it's on test flight, right? But we're kind of fixing out the last few little bugs, so it's not completely functional and out yet. But we're excited that people that we have never even talked to are just messaging us being like, hey, I want someone here. Like, where are they? You know, and we're like, well, we have them. So it's exciting.
Yeah. And the more and more data we have, the more doors that are being opened with integration. So once we feel that we've done enough market research and know that our product is going to solve as many issues that we have heard from our customers, then we'll feel very, very satisfied with the product.
Cool. Curling, you know what match I'm thinking about?
Oh yeah. I did. I talked a little bit about One More Wave and stuff.
Okay.
One question I have for you, Cameron and Alex, Dominiq, really great. This is actually really good because it's actually you're just a little bit further ahead than some of our startups, so it's like perfect on that part. The question I had for you too is on the fact that, well, as you guys are doing this market research, I think, did it affect like what platform you're going to use? Like, did you guys? I heard you say test flight, so I guess you're using iOS. Did it help you understand, like, okay, maybe I should do iOS first versus Android or web? Like, I would like to know that.
We did think about that at first. So we found that iPhone is not the most popular device in the world. Android actually takes up the majority of the regions across the globe, but iPhone is prominent in our desired locations. So iPhone is the most used phone in the United States, part of Australia, and there's another, Oceania actually, which consists of a couple of continents near Australia. And because of that, we thought that it'd be best to start off with iPhone. And then after we've established ourselves in San Diego, up the coast of California, and hopefully we can expand to where this all started, which is Portugal. But until then, we're going to stick to iPhone and just see how it does.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, obviously, you know, we want to capture the entire market, because one thing that, while Dom was saying it, it definitely kind of reoccurred to me, was that a lot of these tourists are not from here, right? They're going to have Androids. He said that's dominating the globe. So once we get more funding and our feedback from our original model, that is like our first priority, you know, because I don't want it to not be available. Because we've probably, I think what we surveyed when we were originally pre-registering on our previous domain, and it was like 85% iOS users, and the other percentage that were Android were all not from California or the US, except for like 2 of them. But even then he was like, hey, I'll use my girlfriend's phone to do it. And I was like, okay. So, yeah.
But going more in depth with what we're using, we're currently developing using iOS, using Swift and Firebase backend database. But if we did want to go to Android, I think we'd be working more along the lines with like Kotlin and some Node.js.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. I think Sam just had a really good question. I've been thinking about this too after I talked to you guys. Sam, you want to just ask it?
Sure. I just, you guys are currently GoSurf, but it seems like this model applies to other action sports. Is that something that you guys have in a long term? I know currently your goals are to move to new locations, but is it also new sports?
Yeah. So, I thought that just went out for a second. Okay. But my first comment would be, so we are looking to expand past this, but we're kind of laying out our 3 to 5 year plan as we speak. But the information I do have for you at the moment is, I can talk about it again. It's instructors, photographers, videographers, coaches, and camps, right? That's our first model. But even in that, there's still more independent contractors within the surf industry that are viable, right? So shapers, glassing, ding repair, rental, right? We had that in our MVP originally, and then through market research and talking to our mentor, we were like, well, these aren't the most prominent right now, and we may be spreading ourselves too thin and taking on too much at once and just having overload for our customers who don't even know what our product is yet and don't have anything to relate it to. So something we've discussed with Brian, right, and to take it slowly and kind of calm our excitement was, okay, well, Amazon focused on books at first. Now they sell everything, right? That's the perfect example of that. And we are looking to get into other sports. And I've put it in a previous pitch for ASU Venture Devils, which is the entrepreneurship competition there. And they thought it was a great idea. What I had listed was go skate for skateboarding, right? So, you know, like an experienced teacher in skateboarding, at least this is like very developmental stages of it, obviously, because we're not gonna be doing it for a while. But then we have snowboarding, which was go board. We have go wake for wakeboarding. And I think one more I'm missing. Anything right now? No. This might be one more.
Essentially, we want to capture our niche first and then think of expansion, but I think that's a little ways down the line.
Oh yeah, so I also wanted to add, you mentioned how if we were going to be joining other extreme sports or sports that are similar to surfing. We did have an idea of doing that. We have had some opportunities with smaller merchandise companies contacting us to do collaborations, but we found that almost like the analogy of setting one brick and doing that day after day, and if eventually you'll have this wall where you'll have so many outlets. For example, like we have about 5 resources right now, but as we continue to work with these individual resources, we'll understand how the freelance contracting side of it, but regardless of what industry they're in, works. And then eventually we'll be able to adapt to other industries and just by tweaking a little bit of things. So like you mentioned, we want to focus on our niche and then in the future, try and expand.
No, that's great, Dominic. I'm really impressed how focused you guys been. I feel like maybe the mentors or that, like certain other startups we talk to will start one way and then they pivot, but you guys been really focused. That was going to be my kind of question offhand has there been some things that you guys have been learning that has kept you really focused? Did you guys stray early on? Because these are all great things for all the startups to know how focused you guys been.
Yeah, so I mean, one big thing we've noticed is like you said, the individualized attention, right? This is huge for the value we're bringing to these individuals, whether they're freelancers, whether they're any surf-related service. And when I was actually in Portugal, kind of gathering feedback on the idea, I was kind of doing market research before I knew how to do it properly in a way. I was traveling to these beach towns and going to every surf hostel, every surf camp, every surf store, and being like, just walking in, hey, I'm Alex. And they're like, okay, what? And I'm like, I'm Alex, you know, this is my idea for this app. Like, would you ever be interested in it? What do you see wrong with it? And some people are like, oh, this guy's trying to sell me something. I was simply getting feedback. And even when I would just do this, like not even fully confidently or having a lot of practice, people were like, okay, well, how much do I pay right now? Because I really want to do it. And I'm like, okay, like I don't have that ready, like I'm sorry, but it kind of kept us going. And I would catch up with Cameron a lot while I was in Portugal. He gave me guidance in areas where I wasn't really experienced in yet. And it's just been a really just informative process, especially over the past year. And one thing you can even measure that in is, you know, our pre-registers in social media. I think like a year ago in social media, we were at like 300 followers, and it was me and Cameron posting here or there, just cool surf content. We're like, oh, this is a cool photo, you know, but that doesn't, so now we're at like what, 2,300 almost. So we've had 2,000 plus followers gained in a year, and we're tracking our insights carefully, seeing what works, you know, doing tasks here and there. Like, I guess we call it follow farming, which we kind of dignify as like, okay, you follow them, like a few photos, comment something, shoot a message, whether it's a cold message about doing market research through a personal account or kind of just getting them aware or anything. And now we're at the point of 50 new followers per week on average. And that's been pretty steady for the past 2 months. So we're excited about that as well as other avenues. But I know you guys might have another question about that at some point. So save my answers.
No, that was good. The only thing I was gonna actually use on tech school, I usually ask one of the startups, whatever they're doing. Is there a tool you guys are using to monitor this data or some of these outcomes? Are you guys using some tools like?
So right now we're just to save cost until we get more funding. I love Hootsuite. I've used it.
All right.
It's not in our budget right now.
Nice.
So we're holding off and waiting till we completely solidify our financial plan because we haven't used all of our grant funding from ASU, but we definitely need some angel investment and have a few candidates, but someone we really like, and we're ready for that once we get our feedback from our first MVP. We want to see if it works on the very small scale of San Diego, and then being like, hey, and then being like, well, these tools can help us, but I don't want to overshoot that and overanalyze the data when I don't believe the scale is big enough, and we can use free tools right now to get almost as much information, you know?
That's great. So you guys do like, you got Cameron?
Yeah, I was just gonna put it in there. We use Google Drive every day, all day long.
Google Drive and Slack are our best friends right now. So record that weekly, you know? But we don't have like a Hootsuite, which is all together, and it's just so easy. But looking forward to using that eventually.
That's great. Yeah. That's good. I like you guys get the shout out for Google Drive and Slack. Those free. Those are I guess those essential tools, right, for startups.
And Asana as well, but Slack's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Okay, I'll write that down. That's good. Steven, I know offhand it's time. Do you have any final thoughts for the team?
Yeah. I got a final question for you guys before we kind of lead into wrapping this up. So this is something that Curling and I have kind of prodded a number of startups with, and this is kind of a question for all you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But so imagine if you had a chance to talk to your younger self before, kind of at the early stages of each of your guys' startup journey. So, it could be before GoSurf, or, with Dominiq, I know you've had a few ventures before that. So kind of early on in your startup journey, are there kind of one or two little tips that you would kind of give to your past self, given what you know now and what experience you've had and everything like that?
Okay. A couple things I'd say to myself. Don't take it all on once. Don't take it all on at once. That's, very simple. But what I mean by that is brainstorming's great, and you can go a lot of different ways, but think MVP. Like, we have a meme in our group chat, right? It's like when someone's kind of outstandingly just building off of one avenue that we've tackled at some extent. They go, well, we need to go here and do this, and we just send a picture that's not MVP. And we write it down later. It's like the button meme, So we use that. Something else is don't stop thinking you're badgering people, because people are eventually going to start badgering you. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I love getting badgered. I want to be having my phone blow up about my idea. That's so rewarding. And that's just starting to happen, So telling myself, it is going to work out. Stick with Cameron. You're going to find someone like Dom. You don't need to freak out because 2 CTOs were like, hey, man, I don't know, But Dom's has been amazing. He is, just great. So, yeah, of course. So anything you guys want to add?
Dom, what would you say to your past self?
For me, I would just tell myself to keep going. I feel like I had a very, very specific goal in mind when I started to learn how to code and learn how to develop iOS applications. So I found myself in, we like to call it caveman mode, where you literally just focus on accomplishing one thing, and if it takes weeks, it takes weeks. And I did that with Giga, and now that I am with GoSurf, I find myself in caveman mode a lot. And caveman mode is just a way to explain how dedicated you have to be to accomplish goals that you set. And another thing I'd like to add is that I'd like to tell myself is that I shouldn't worry about the future so much. A lot of the times I find myself worried about how I'm going to get things done before I even start them. And that overwhelms me sometimes. I find myself gaining a lot of anxiety from that, overthinking how I'm going to accomplish the tasks or the goals that I set for myself. And if I go in with a easier mind, doing a task, I find myself accomplishing it a lot better and more efficiently. So those are the two things, is to not worry too much and just stay persistent.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess I would tell myself, a younger version of myself, to keep going, right? And that consistency is key, because oftentimes I think back sort of like on our Instagram growth or our general social media growth, and I think consistency is key, right? You just got to keep putting yourself in the eyes of individuals who might be interested, right? Keep opening doors, continue chasing opportunities. And even if you have an off day, right? Like one Instagram post might be the difference. You never really know. And so, like, looking back, now that we're a year plus into this venture, I can see the gains from this consistency and like this persistence we've had, and it feels great. So I'd really just stress, it doesn't matter what you did yesterday or what you plan to do tomorrow, but just a little bit every day, like, really makes a difference.
I'd say like two more smaller things I kind of just thought of while I was saying that was, well, the first one's kind of funny, is it's like, stop hating TikTok, because while I think it is a huge waste of time just scrolling on there, it is great for businesses. You can do so many fun challenges. Like a great example, I don't know if you guys, I studied this in my marketing class recently, so I don't know how relevant it is. I know it was a big trend. Mucinex did this thing of being sick and then taking, like, cleaning it up, and it was kind of creative, and a lot of influencers did it, and then the whole world joined in, and that was an ad. That was an ad campaign, and then that all of a sudden that was like a cool trend, and our third post ever on TikTok was Cameron doing like a do-it-yourself surf shower, how you do it goes down, and that has almost hit 1 million views. We're at like 985,000, and that's brought us pre-registers. And while at first I was like, all right guys, like, do TikTok, I guess, that really benefiting us. And yeah, and as well as kind of using some of the following we have to do good things for our community, because we are building an app that centralizes all these resources and brings the surf community together. We want to do good things for our community. So we do a beach cleanup every Sunday now. And this has been spreading to all the people that have similar interests of sustainability, enjoying the ocean. Like a big thing in surfing is like, don't trash your playground, right? Because the ocean is our playground. So we make sure we do that weekly. We've been getting a bunch of people we've never met, or possibly they haven't even heard of GoSurf. They'll just message us and be like, when's the next cleanup? Can I come? Can I bring these people? I don't even know what your app is, but I like that you're doing the cleanups. It's like, we'll take that, so.
And another thing we've been trying to do with our social media is leverage it so that we can find the people in our desired areas. Like, as much as we want the global fans and global supporters, I think it's very important that we make sure we're connecting and finding our network that is in Carlsbad, in Oceanside, in San Diego, in these immediate areas, that when we do launch, they're all very familiar, and then it sort of becomes a household name.
That's great, Dom. Yeah, I always like that when you guys, think Cameron told me about that, the beach cleanup, how that was. I think that's positive.
Yeah.
I was seeing some comments from Chris and the community services out. It comes all full circle. He said, I see other people too. Brianna saying she's inspired by you guys too. I think you guys did a really good job on just being transparent on stuff too. That was great. So I want to thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
We appreciate, talking to you and Steven really fired us up the other day. It's like,
Okay.
we got someone who we can completely talk about everything to, and we don't have to over explain it. And that's because you can feel alone in this a lot, even though I have my team, right? We'll all feel alone. And it's like seeing things like, you guys rock, like, thanks, Christopher, Brianna, everyone involved. Like, this is awesome, guys. We could use all the love and support. It's not always easy. I have a smile on my face right now, but sometimes I'm like sweating and like, so I appreciate it, guys. That's my point.
It's nice to finally be on the other side of the interview. Like I said, we interview all the time.
Yeah.
It's sort of cool to let it all out.
Yeah.
Only thing I was gonna add to, like, what's your Instagram and what's some of your handles, so you could just do a little shout out for that.
Yeah, so our Instagram is GoSurf Mobile. Same with our TikTok. And then Facebook is just GoSurf, one word. Anything else? LinkedIn, GoSurf, should come up right away.
Check it out.
Nice. Thanks, Garrett. That's a shout out. All right. That's great. That's great.
Follow Instagram.
So
Like,
okay.
subscribe.
That's solid.
we kind of recently upgraded that too with our, we've had some graphic design help from good friends who just want to list themselves as an intern and help out every way. So we think we're upgrading our social media game. So stay tuned, guys.
Yeah.
A lot to come.
Not to go. That's great. That's good. I'll let you Sam, did you want to have one thought, and then I'll let Stephen can just wrap it up. This Sam. He's got a low person. A future surfer right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
He's paying attention in the back, right? Listening in. No, I just want to thank you guys for coming and sharing your experience. It's nice to see, some of these early stage concepts discussed. One of the things that we're doing right in our class this next week is talking about that starting with a problem and discussing that with customers and really evaluating what are those customer needs. And I think you guys do a good job for yourselves discovering that, but talking about how the process you went through to do so. So I appreciate it. It was a great job. Thank you guys very much. Really excited about what you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. We're excited too, man. Means a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys. I know you guys shared some awesome insight today, and you had so many great stories. I think we might have to have a round 2 one of these days.
I would love that, man. A follow-up.
Yeah.
That'd be great. If you guys, I'd love to. Well, I mean, considering COVID, I guess is an option. But Dom mentioned your workspace, and I really wanted to check that out and see if we can provide any insight directly to some of the people you're working with, or anything. If we want to help you guys as well, right? And this is beneficial for both of us. Just anything, just let us know, please.
That's great.
Definitely.
I'd like to add in, if anyone watching or any of you all are interested in learning to surf, we do free surf lessons. So let us know. We'll accept DMs on Instagram or whatever form of contact. But it's great for the mind and body, and we'd love to see you guys, everyone out there. So let us know.
Free lesson Friday, twice a month. So just let us know.
That's cool. That's great, man.
Those flyers will be on our Instagrams and Facebook.
Nice.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I know you gave us a lot of great info here, so I don't want to, overload all of our viewers too much.
If anyone else has any other questions, shoot us a DM. Check us out on LinkedIn. Someone just dropped our website below. Anything you guys have or need from us, let us know, please.
Yeah, and if you want to contact us on a more personal and direct level, we have a contact form on our website where you can just shoot us a message about anything you need.
Sounds great. And I'll when we post this video on YouTube, I'll make sure to put links to your guys' social media and website on there so that they have that kind of accessible for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Steven. That's huge, man.
Yeah, but thank you guys. Just to kind of before we kind of wrap up, just to kind of echo from the beginning, for those of you watching, on YouTube or even here with us in Zoom, if you have a chance, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We post this on YouTube. Every sort of interaction we get, whether it's a like or comment, someone sharing their thoughts, have a question, whatever it may be, helps push our content out to more people. And so that like or that comment that you leave could allow this video to be pushed out to an entrepreneur or startup who really needs to hear the message, right? And so they really could have benefited from some of the things that GoSurf shared today. So if you have a chance to do that, feel free to do so. But as always, thanks guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
See you guys.
Hey everyone, Steven here with Fokcus. Thanks for tuning in today. If you liked the video today, be sure to hit that like button and give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. If you have thoughts and you'd love to share them, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. We love to hear from you guys. We're always looking for feedback on how we can improve and make our videos better, so feel free to leave a comment if you can. And if you'd like to be notified on future videos and future episodes of Tech School, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified anytime we post a new video. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.